Vincent Alonso, U.S. Army retired Lieutenant Colonel, but I'm currently currently a military collector. Is it good? Okay. Vince Alonso, U.S. Army retired Lieutenant Colonel, but since then, my passion for military history, along with my other compatriots and partners here, has been to collect the vehicles and equipment and weapons of our forefathers. And I'm here honored to be the sole vehicle accompanied by the Melcher brothers in the U.S. Army and U.S. Military Transportation Corps collection. Here you can see this impressive collection. We'll go down the line and talk about each vehicle one at a time. So what I have here on your right is a German Volkswagen. The Germans called it a Kubelwagen. It's made by Volkswagen. It's actually the Beetle. And the Beetle was designed in 1938 to be the people's car, the Volkswagen in German. And it was supposed to be for all Germans until a certain totalitarian dictator decided to make it a war car. So the war started and none of the citizens got the people's car. The army got the Kubelwagen, which is what you see here. The Kubelwagen has a basic Volkswagen engine, 23 horsepower, later upgraded to 40 horsepower in the rear air-cooled engine, just like a Bug does, so it's not much different. It's got a square body instead of the fancy Beetle body, which you see nowadays, or you saw, and is still kept up as a classic. This one is depicting a captured vehicle, so that's why it's got the invasion star on the side and the captured registration and the American flag, so you wouldn't get shot at when you drove around near the front lines by U.S. aircraft or British aircraft. So the invasion star was very common. We made it clearly marked on the front, sides, and back. The Kubelwagen wasn't as good as the Jeep. Okay, the Jeep was a four-wheel drive, all-terrain vehicle. You're going to see a lot of these four-wheel drive vehicles going down the line. The Kubel was just a rear-wheel drive, but it was light. It had like a sled body, so it would go all over rough terrain. And they're actually pretty handy. Not as good as the Jeep, but they were issued throughout the Army, and a lot were captured after D-Day. In fact, this one, depicted in this picture here, a Life magazine picture of the liberation of Paris, and you can come look at it individually later, is this car. This is what I kind of painted it as, with the war correspondents writing in it. And you can see a couple French resistance guys on the back. And my impression today is a Yank magazine war correspondent. Now, Yank magazine, and later you guys can look at the examples here, was a U.S. Army magazine staffed and written and photographed by U.S. Army enlisted soldiers. And a lot of them were brought in from different journalisms, different newspapers, different magazines, and enlisted, and they put together this magazine for the service troops. So we're kind of showing what they would take to the field, the cameras, the typewriter, and the product that they put out every month, twice a month usually, depending on the, and in every theater, Pacific, Europe, and the Mediterranean. So they really tried to keep the soldiers, for their morale, advised of what was going on in the other theaters, what was even going on in their own theater, and what some news from home. They even had a little sports section and stuff. These kind of captured vehicles were issued to rear echelon troops. So you can see here that they didn't have much firepower. They just had their equipment. They could carry weapons. In fact, some of them fell in action. Of the 150 deployed, 13 were killed in action. War correspondents like me, wearing a war correspondent patch. And the civilian war correspondents like Ernest Hemingway, Ernie Pyle, the guys you hear about, Martha Gellhorn. If you saw the movie Lee, she was a famous female war correspondent. And they took a lot of pictures and wrote in Harper's, they wrote in Life magazine. They would also accompany the troops and take pictures and document. They were like embedded reporters today. So a very interesting period of history we're kind of depicting here, showing the service provided by the press in the war to send the news, in the case of Yank magazine, to the troops, in the case of the civilian war correspondents, back home to the home front, keeping them informed through different magazines, Life, Look, Collier's, and newspapers. that's a brief summary of what we're just depicting here. Feel free to look around after we're done with display. I'll pass this on to the Melcher brothers. They can introduce you to their vehicle collection.
Thank you, sir. Well, we're going to start with the M274 mechanical mule. That's this little gem here. These were designed in the 50s as a replacement for the quarter ton or Jeep vehicles at the infantry level. This is one of the unique features of this four-wheel drive and four-wheel steering vehicle, is that it's the only vehicle that I've come across that is actually rated to carry more than it weighs. So available in a 2-cylinder or 4-cylinder model with a magnesium or aluminum bed, they're between 750 and 850 pounds weight. They're rated at 1,000 pounds as a half-ton capacity. Now, I've never seen a military vehicle that this did not count for. It doesn't mean it's every single one, but I haven't come across one where the rated weight is not doubled on an improved road. So that's an off-road weight rating of a half a ton. You could put a full ton on that on improved roads. Another interesting feature of this you'll note is the steering. If you'll go ahead and move that down. This is designed to be driven from the ground. You put it in reverse, and you can move behind it. You can load the entire platform with cargo and walk behind it. Pretty handy little device. Next one, we've kind of organized these by more or less by size or weight capacity, and then I've kept the Dodges and the GMCs together. I like to compare them a little bit that way. You can see the differences between World War II and up into Korea and into Vietnam. I think there's some interesting points to be made there. So the next one is this 1942 Dodge WC-21 open cab, designated as a weapons carrier. And a lot of folks think the WC stands for weapons carrier. That is not actually the case. The C is a half ton. The W is 1941 design date. So, example, if it was a VC, it would be a 1940 Dodge design. Anyhow, this is a four-wheel drive truck. It's got a little 230 cubic inch flathead engine, 4-speed gearbox, and it's again rated at half a ton, full ton on improved roadways. The next one here I've got, again, I wanted to compare these two. I think it's interesting. You folks all saw the World War I truck with the hard rubber tires, ropes tied around them for tread. I think it's an interesting evolution. Consider that's World War I, and then World War II we've got pneumatic tires, automatic advanced ignition systems. It's quite a jump in technology. Then we look at, this is a 1965 Dodge M43 V1 ambulance. So this is now into Vietnam. For 2 wars, we didn't really change that much. I think that's an interesting point. Of some of the improvements that were made in World War II, they were such good designs that we kept them for 2 wars. I think that's pretty incredible. Some of the upgrades that you'll see between World War II and Korea is water fjording. So they want to be able to go through water. They have troubles with water in ignition systems, water in differentials, and these kind of things. So when we start to move into Korea and Vietnam, we start seeing sealed ignition systems. If you look at the spark plug wires on the Vietnam ambulance or the Korean War GMC, you'll see they look almost like a diesel fuel injection line with these big threaded on fittings. Very interesting. This is the 3rd Army 1st Medical 9th Surgical Unit ambulance. I believe you can put 4 patients in the back of that. There's a little jump seat for medic and 2 in the front.
So I'm one of their fans. Do you want to come back and show them the ambulance in the back, or you want to do it now?
Do we want to do that later? We can take We can take them to the back if they want to venture back.
We'll come back and do it.
We can save that for afterwards.
Okay, let's go
Why don't
ahead,
we,
and then you
why don't we
gotta
keep
see all
moving?
how it works.
We'll keep moving down, and anyone who's interested, by all means, feel free to come forward, after we're done with this, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that you may have, and we can take a look around. We might even have a special treat here if the weather does pretty good things. Next let me get out of the way here. Next vehicle, this is back to the 40s. This is a 1942 GMC, rated at 2.5 tons. This is a 6x6 truck, all driven axles, all 3 axles, powered by a 270 cubic inch GMC overhead valve engine, 5-speed gearbox. You could put a full 12-man team in here with gear, equipment, rifles, what have you. They were over 550,000 of these built during World War II. The second highest produced military vehicle that we made, right next to the Jeeps. Right next to this, we've got the Korean War GMC. So after World War II, we started in Korea. And once again, we turned to the General Motors Company to build us a deuce and a half. And that's this M221 truck. The trailer for this is actually outside. It's a little big to fit that in the building, but it's got an M127 trailer that goes with it. This is powered. Again, I like to compare it. This is a 270 GMC, this is a 302 GMC straight 6. But the long block is the same. It's the same engine, essentially. Very similar design. One of the unique features of this Korean War deuce and half, they started to go into automatic transmission, what they call a hydromatic transmission. Built by Cadillac Motor Company, actually. So it's actually a 4-speed Cadillac gear case with a low range stuff on it. And again, we have a deep water fjording. So this truck, all the axle vents, the brake master cylinder vents, gear case vents, engine vents, the entire intake system, anything that could get water in it is vented up higher than 3.5 to 4 feet high. So you can go through a decent amount of water and not get your engine and gear case full of water. Let's move on down. This is a real treat. This is an FWD HAR1 from 1943. This is one of about 7,000 built, and one of only 1,700 to receive the USA Hood registration numbers. Most of these went Lend-Lease. They went to Poland, they went to Britain, some went to Australia, New Zealand, a few went to Canada. This is one of the 1,700 that got the USA Hood registration numbers. We actually found those during the registration, during the restoration in the original blue drab marking numbers. You can ask me about the blue drab later. I've got some interesting tidbits about the blue drab registration numbers. Powered by a Waukesha engine, a 320 cubic inch 6BZ engine. The 4-wheel drive mechanism under this truck is designed by Otto Zachow. Otto Zachow. It's very similar to what you might find under any modern 4-wheel drive vehicle. A lot of the credit for 4-wheel drive evolution is credited to Mr. Zachow. This is one of about 3 or possibly 4 that I know of to be operational in the United States today. Very rated 4 tons. We're getting a little bigger. And this one, if you look in the back of it, you'll see the canvas has been removed. You can see the troop seats. When I said that you could put full 12 men in the back of that deuce and a half, this has a very similar seat arrangement. So you can get an idea on the seats in there. Not an excessively cushy ride, but it does the job. Next, we'll move down to the White Motor Company half-track. This was built again in 1943. We say 1943 due to its pedestal-mounted, I'm going to walk over here for that. The pedestal-mounted headlamps as opposed to being on the fender. The earlier ones were on the fender. These are up here. Also in combination with the landmine racks on the side. That's how we decide as a 43. This is a communications model half-track. White Motor Company built the most. Autocar came in second at about 6,800 and change, and the fewest were made by the Diamond T Truck Company. So this weighs about 18,500 pounds unloaded. It's full side, front and rear armor plated. Not a lot of armor plating on the top, but they did look out for the radiator. Demonstrate armor plating for the radiator. I'll tell you, I've got a secret fondness for when people ask me what that roller is for on the front. So 10 points to whoever can pull that out. And then, last but not least, this is a M52A2 5-ton tractor. This is not marked as to who made this. It's kind of an odd case. Built in June of '73, but the tag is left blank as to who built it. So I can't tell you whether this was a Kaiser Jeep or whether Mack had its hands in this or Rio. I don't know why it's not stamped. We know this used to be used on the Minot Air Force Base by the border of Canada in Minot, North Dakota. And so that's why we have, if we look on the front here, we see this goofy looking little cover. That's our Arctic Weather Kit cover for the 5-ton truck. This will have the larger size Continental LD series multi-fuel diesel engine. It can run on gasoline or diesel fuel. I believe kerosene, and there's one other one as well. I can get that. Can I give a little? You'll have to bear with me. It's not a fuel that you buy every day, and I always forget what it's called. I guess JP4. So there we are. Diesel, kerosene, gasoline, or JP4 fuel. What's that? That is a jet fuel.
Yeah, it's jet fuel.
Well, there you go. You learn something new every day.
So they can fuel that right off the B-52.
Sure. You can fuel that right off the B-52. Anywho, so that's a kind of a brief overview. I'm sure I've left plenty of holes for questions. So at this point, if anybody's got any questions, by all means, I'd love to.
Okay, back to your roller story.
Oh, the roller story. That's not a winch. That's what they call a ditch assist roller. So if you get into what you might call a steep or a ravine of some kind, the first thing that's going to hit is going to be the bumper. You're going to plow the front bumper right into the dirt. With the roller on the front, the roller hits the dirt. You push with the tracks until you can get the front tires up on the hill, and then it starts pulling. So that's so that you can go through a very steep, hilly area.
Simple but brilliant.
Simple but very brilliant. It's something that a lot of people don't think of, believe it or not. I know I certainly never did when I was young. First time I went for a ride in this, I was about 4 or 5 years old. I believed what was told to me, which was a different story than what I just told you. I can go into that. But, yep, that is, it's one heck of a machine. This was actually in the mini-series America, spelled with a K, if you've ever heard of that. starred Chris Christopherson back in, what was that, 1985? Yep, this is in about one frame of that, if you know where to look. My father restored this and took it out there by the Milford Douglas area in Nebraska. So that's our Hollywood star. Any other questions?
What was the deal about the ambulance? Oh,
The ambulance?
yeah.
Oh, you wanted to check in the back of the ambulance?
No, you were gonna tell us the compare?
Oh, that was my comparison between World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the flat edge. They were very anything else?
On like newer style semis and stuff, Mac actually puts their differential in their stuff.
Oh, very nice.
That is like computer power or anything like that, they're out on the side, so Mac has something to do with that.
Mac did have their hands in that project. I believe those are Rockwell axles. And to my knowledge, all the Rio production, the Kaiser Jeep production, and the Max, they all would have been the same. Just like what we were talking about, Auto Car Diamond